Well, hello world. My name is Allison Crow, and I'm your favorite life coach. Why? Because I decided to be your favorite life coach. Actually, because I'm my favorite life coach. So I'm doing what I call a pep talk. I have a private group called Show Your Heart, Show Your Work. And right now we're in the middle of an 11-day Facebook Live challenge. And there are 950 people in that group, and about 100 of them are participating in what we call a Show Your Heart, Show Your Work Live challenge. And today, each day, they get a prompt of what to talk about. And I have been going live in the group to encourage them to do their prompts. But today, I thought I would honor them by coming out here in my public and personal profile to share some of my whys. So if you're here and you stay, because I see a bunch of names coming, please say hi. I'm just so in love with seeing these people choose to do something they've never done. Most of them have never, ever hit go live. Many of them are sharing stories that they have never told a soul. Hi, Elaine. Many of them are talking about their work. Hi, Cosima. Many of them are talking about their work, which they are beautiful creators, but sometimes it feels very insecure and they don't want to be promotional and things like that. And so we are all practicing as a community. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Rolly. We are all practicing as a community, strengthening our vulnerability, our authenticity, and our visibility muscles. And so today, I honor them by coming out of the quiet room and talking in public. And then I'll share this in the group. And anybody that wants to jump in on the challenge can totally jump in on the challenge. And what's so beautiful, it's so funny because I always think, oh, I don't want to do a challenge that sounds so nasty, but sometimes people just need a little structure and format to be willing to be visible. So today their prompt is we're halfway through the challenge. And so today I'm asking them to go a little bit deeper. And I thought I would share, I don't have this planned out, but I thought I would share some of the reasons why I do the work that I do. So thank you for listening. I have some outer reasons, like some reasons outer that I really want to make some money, and they're very important to me, and I'll share them in a minute. When I was young, I wanted to be a wife and a mom and have 10 kids. I was was raised by my school, not my parents, very, very Christian. And all I ever knew was the possibility of being a wife and mom. I never, ever considered working, ever. I went to college and got a home economics degree because I wanted to be a wife. I literally was proud to say I was getting an MRS degree, and that didn't happen. And so then I went to graduate school to be a therapist. And I then was a teacher. I got married for the first time at 28. And around my mid-20s, around 24, I walked into a bookstore in Boulder, Colorado, and came across a book by Sark, Susan Ariel Rainbow Kennedy. And I saw that there was this woman that could paint and talk about important things and psychology, and that was her living. And I got it, that was one of the first seeds. And I also used to read spiritual books by just a second, I'm having a brain fart. Both of their names are getting confused in. So The Reenchantment of Everyday Life by Thomas More is one of my all-time favorite books. And Henry Nouwen. And so they were both spiritual psychologist authors that I love to read. And those things began to draw me into something deeper, but I still never considered work. And honestly, what threw me into work in general was the fact that I didn't have a husband. I'm not real proud to admit that now. I just didn't know any better. I was living this very sheltered life. And my mom did such a good job of being a stay-at-home mom and taking care of us. And I had a really, for the most part, hi, Peter. I had a really, for the most part, pleasant time of doing that. And after being married for 2.5 years, my husband, the first one, I came home on a Wednesday from my teaching job, and he said, I don't want to be married anymore. And I had just gotten my real estate license 2 weeks before. I would look at houses on realtor.com, and he was like, why don't you do that for a living? Little did I know that he was planning to leave me. I think he was planning to leave me. I don't think he just showed up one day. That was my side of it, but he must have been pushing me into something other than teaching, because he knew that teaching would be difficult for me to survive on my own financially. And so I'd gotten my real estate license, and 2 weeks later he came home and said, I don't want to be married anymore. And I was crushed. My dreams of having children were crushed. My heart was broken. It was the last thing I expected. I had married a nice guy. I didn't marry an asshole. And so I didn't think that would happen. But honestly, you guys, that had been one of my biggest fears, was being left. And here it was. Being left was one of my biggest fears. And what it did was it sent me to work. And he left on September 17th, 2003. And by October, I had sold my first house. And my first year of real estate, I think I sold 32 houses. And I did really, really well my first year of real estate. I made $120,000 in revenue. And I was like, oh. So I did that. I stayed at my teaching job part-time. I stayed at my teaching job for the first 4 months. I sold real estate. I went through a divorce. I drank entirely too much and started smoking weed for the first time in my life. And I still made $120,000. And I was like, oh, there's a businesswoman inside of me. And so that why didn't come from a drive. That one why, there's a few whys in here. And so that one why didn't come from a drive. It came from necessity. But that necessity of having to save myself set me on a whole new trajectory that I'm totally in love with and didn't even know. And so what I didn't mention about the first few years of my marriage was that I had cervical cancer and wasn't going to have babies anyways. That was not a part of God's plan, Spirit's plan, the universe's plan. Mama ain't having no babies. And so I went to work selling real estate, and I did really well. I was going through a divorce. I was 32 years old, and I was sad about being rejected, and I just wanted to be liked. And honestly, I was really good at real estate, but I was a little bit of a floozy. And that bothered some of the leaders. I was wild. I was dating. I was spending a lot of time with married men in my office in a very flirtatious way. And, that didn't fit this wholesome thing. I was rediscovering who I was. I was dating. I was Match.comming the fuck out of life. I was having sex for the first time in my life in a way that was on my terms. It wasn't about being liked. It wasn't about, hi, Janet. It wasn't about, it was, everything was on my terms. It was a whole new world to me in my early 30s. I felt powerful. So my pendulum swang from doing all the things that I thought I would do to having to do something different to discovering who am I? And so I fell into the real estate world, and I found out that I was really good at some things. And but I also found out that me being me, which is a little bit of rebel and a little bit of edgy, did not fit in the box of employment, because people wanted me to behave a certain way. Well, I had spent 32 years behaving a certain way, and it didn't work for me. Behaving the right way had my husband leave me. So if you can see that math equation, it was like, well, why be nice? Why be kind? Why be sweet? Why be good when everything falls apart anyway. So I began this experimentation of figuring out who was I really. And that's what started me on the coaching path. And I started out in sales coaching. And it was perfect because it was like, oh, this is very, we get to have these conversations outside of sales, which was a technical skill. The emotional side and the mental side got to have this conversations about being a better person and about enlightenment and about mindset and all these things that I just, I look back and think my freshman year in college, I actually went to be a psychology major. But I made a D in psychology at the University of Texas. And so I gave up. I was like, oh, I guess psychology isn't for me. And so as I began to discover that, as I began to have success, I was doing all these things, but I also still feeling pressure from the outside world. And I had a lot of opportunities at the company I was at. I had a lot of people believe in me, but I still had some pressure and shame, blame, and guilt. And I always, y'all, here's one of my whys, because I'm insecure as fuck. Because for most of my life, and I'm a lot better now, a lot more confident from 40 on, but most of my life, I have been as bold as I've been, as charismatic as I've been, as creative as I've been, as accomplished I've been, I have been insecure as fuck. And so doing this work, creating a business, has given me permission to heal that inside of me. I've been able to walk the path I teach, and in walking the path I teach, we all get a little bit better. And so when I left that company, I remember she wasn't really my boss because I was an independent contractor, although there was a little bit of pressure like they were my boss. And she was like, why would you leave 105,000 agents? And my answer was, I'm not leaving you, I'm going towards me. And that day in 2011, it was May of 2011, I had decided a long time, but it took me a lot. It took me about a year to quit and say, no, I'm going towards me. And so from that time, one of my whys is using my work and my business and even my money making to rediscover who I am and what's really important to me, and to be a creative and prosperous expression of that. And I really struggle with deep satisfaction of having a successful business, and then the desire and drive to blow it out of the water. Like making $175,000, $200,000, netting $100,000 is wonderful, but for some reason it wasn't enough. And so on one hand, that there is this part of me that feels good and whole. And it's absolutely true that if this was all I ever did, I've done so much and I am doing well. And then there is another why that drives me. And this is more where some people affiliate with their whys. Their whys are outside of them. But I had to share with you the inner whys. Those inner whys they're not from a drive. It's about me going towards me. It's about me becoming whole. It's about me really remembering my I amness, me stepping into all I am. It's not an outside drive and force. And I've always been more motivated by internal sources than external sources. And I think that's one of the reasons I struggle so much with wanting to create more. And so I have the potential, and I can really see it clearly, to have $1 million coaching business working just a couple of days a week and loving on my tribe without overexhausting myself, without having to have a huge staff. And I am growing towards that even now. And one of the reasons why it's important to me to financially keep growing my business, I have a couple. One is for just pure future, saving money for retirement, for giving my husband and myself the peace of mind. But the other reason is the opportunity to help my niece. So I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and today is my parents' 48th anniversary. And my sister has 3 kids, and her first child, which was the first baby born into our family, um, seemed perfectly healthy until she was about 10 months old. And um, shortly after that, she was diagnosed with what's called RET, R-E-T-T, RET syndrome. And at the time, we didn't really know what that means, but now she's 16 years old and we know what that means. We've known a lot growing, but I've watched my sister and her husband have the most beautiful child that has lost function and ability, and the ability to speak and the ability to walk safely. She was 3 before she started walking, and she had scoliosis and epilepsy and all the things that Blythe has. And so Blythe is a wonderful human being, and she requires a ton of care. She has a ton of personality. She has a ton of spunk. She talks through a computer. There's a little bit of a delay. So it's not like you see on TV where it's real easy. But one of the things I watch my sister and her husband and all the kids do is, so this is another reason politics is very important, because somebody with a disability is marginalized. And one of the things my sister talks about is, yeah, people are pro-life as long as the baby's in the womb. But as soon as somebody is born with disabilities, they don't give a shit. And so she talks about being pro whole life. And so one of my financial motives to grow my business even more while staying sane is I have a dream someday of providing a nurse, actually maybe 2 nurses. So Courtney and Joel get some benefits from the government that provide for in-home health care. And the problem is it's somewhere around $10 to $15 an hour. And so when Blythe was little, it worked out perfect because they would get these amazing college girls or girls right out of college. And Blythe was little and she could be carried and she could be held. But now Blythe is tall. She's 5 feet tall now, and she's a 16-year-old girl. And as she's gotten older, her disability has a lot more complications. She has a feeding tube. She she can walk sometimes, but she has to have an adult with her when she's walking because she's so tall. If she falls, if she stumbles, even though she can walk, she could hit her head and it could kill her. And so she wears a diaper and has to have her diapers changed. And there's so many functions that even though she's a beautiful and going to high school and a sophomore in high school girl, she still has to require a lot of help. And so you can imagine that $10 an hour help comes and goes. And a lot of times it's pretty shitty. And it is a pretty intense position. And so I've had this dream. I can't give money to Blythe because then she will lose her benefits. But I have this dream, like when I think about one of the ways that I could help Courtney and Joel, and they don't ever ask for help. I think recently the only thing they've asked for help is with Blythe's service dog. And that's a whole nother way. Like I realized I didn't have to be totally rich to help y'all help so much with that. Y'all funded more than half of her service dog in training. But I thought, if I'm making $1 million a year, I can hire somebody for $120,000 that's really good and really talented and that has the intention of staying for a long time and that fits really well. Like instead of just getting who they can when they can at $10 and $15 an hour, what if I could hire 2 nurses, one for nighttime and one for daytime? And this doesn't mean that Courtney and Joel don't do any help with the kid, but having that help is vital to the sanity of this families. And so that's one of my external whys. Like there are things that I could do. I have everything I want and need now. I mean, yeah, there's a few things luxurious that I would want and need, but more money is not selfish to me. More money is more generosity. When I have more to share, I do have a vision, Janet, thank you. I have a vision of, it's not about sending kids to college. It's not about, and what if, so this is the vision that scares me. What if there's not just money for Blythe and the nurses for Blythe, but what if there's some kind of foundation that's able to supplement those in-home healthcare expenses so that instead of getting a $10 or $15 an hour come and go nurse, that people can afford to hire quality healthcare, somebody who wants to do that job. And so I don't even know I don't worry about the how to, but I just keep thinking about having more, creating, not having, I don't need it given to me, but I can see that I can, if I take my business from a $200,000 a year business to $1 million or to a multi-million dollar, not only can I help my clients who are then going and helping and doing their greatness in a work, but then I can also use some of my income, not to travel to Bali or not to do whatever, and all those things are fine, but I don't want to do that. I want to stay here and I want to help my family, and not as a handout, but as in, what would you do if you had 800,000 extra dollars, 500,000 extra dollars a year after taxes? It would be amazing. The Let Love Win Foundation stuff. And I don't know anything about running a foundation, but one of the things I know about really wealthy people and really successful people is that you have a lot more opportunity to give. And did you know that Mother Teresa's organization was one of the richest in the world? And so on one hand, while I am so content and so happy and so humble that I have been, that life took a right turn, actually it took a left turn right towards my heart. It took a left turn right towards my heart. And this path unfolded almost magically for me to choose to do work that grew me. Yes, I am extremely self-centered. I want to be centered in myself so that anybody comes in my orbit is blessed. Instead of having to give to manipulate somebody to like me, I choose to be likable, be wild, be too much, be unlikable. That's the other thing. Before I chose to be likable and I wasn't, and now I choose to be myself, and either you like me or you don't, and it's fucking fine. But I can see beyond that. I'm not trying to deliver water to the world. I would just like to be able to give my own family peace of mind that they're not going to have to worry about a flaky nurse, a bad nurse, a nurse coming that they love and saying, I love you, I love this child, but I can't stay because I can't afford to live on $10 an hour. And so those are some of my whys. Oh, I have one more. I have one more. Right. So I'm not driven by a singular focus. Many of us women are not. Many of us women are, and maybe men are too, but I know sometimes men are singularly focused and women can be open. We have a lot of, but my other one is I always, part of my psychology that I'm working through is that I always felt like I felt like the B team. I felt like the girl next door, and there were women in high school, girls in high school and college that had more money and more looks than me, and always felt second best. And and one of the things I love about my community is a lot of times my community is, sometimes I have a lot of high achievers, and a lot of my high achievers call themselves recovering overachievers, and they're trying to soften. And then I also have a large population in my community of women that have a desire, but they haven't given themselves permission to achieve. They're like the girl next door. They're the B team. And yet we see the A team and we're longingly and lovingly jealous because of the desires in our hearts. And I know what that's like. I know what that's like to think it's possible, but then my doubt is just bigger than my dreams. And so beginning to give permission, my doubt says, yeah, Allison, great. $150,000, $200,000 a year. Just keep doing that. You can do that without even looking. My dreams say, why not? $1 million life coach without the pain, $1 million life coach with ease, $1 million life coach by serving and giving and starting the Let Love Win Foundation. Steph, it's so funny that you use that, and you know that my license plate says Let Love Win. And this year my license plate came up on renewal. And I could have called and done 1 year, but the way everything was automated, it was a 5-year thing. And it was really expensive to do a 5-year license. And I almost didn't do it. I almost let it go. And because I was like, well, I don't have $500 to spend on a fucking license plate right now. And I just slowed down and I checked in, which I've learned to do. And I was like, yeah, $500 is nothing for that vision. Um, let love win. And so, yeah, let love win is one of my mottos, and let love for myself win, and let love for my marriage win, and let love for my family win. This is one of the reasons I can't not be political. I may not talk about it online. I talk about it over on Twitter. If you want to know what my political beliefs are, pretty fucking liberal, and it's over on Twitter. I'm proud to be a liberal. I'm so tired of that being a bad word. But that's the thing, is like, I want to be free to be all of me. I want to free to care about more than me. I want to be free to care about other people. I want to be free to care about people in my community. I want to be free to care about the world. I want to be free to care about my government. I finally learned how to, through this work, I've learned how to not just be happy, but to how to be unhappy and okay with it. Do y'all realize that it's not just about being happy? That is beautiful. It's not just about being pain-free. Pain-free is impossible. But I have learned how to deal with all the shadow emotions. And now that I can deal with the shadow emotions, I feel so much more empowered. I can deal with the doubt. It's okay if I have doubt. That's why I do this. I didn't realize that until the last 2 years. But in the last, so I've been self-employed for 15 years. And you know what? I have beautiful stepkids that their mom and their dad are the core of their lives, and I get to be on the edge. So I have some extra benefits of, I'm not having to raise children. I'm raising dogs. That's another thing. If I have enough money, I would love to have a ranch where we rescue dogs. But more important are these other things. So much of it came from the inside, and some of it comes from the outside. And maybe as now that my inside is full up, now that my center self is centered, and now that I am full because I give myself the fullness, I give myself the approval, I give myself the love, I give myself the fucking congratulations. I don't need it so much for the outside world, and it blows the fucking doubt out of the water. And I'm able to say, oh, there, doubt. I see you. I won't leave you. Oh, there, fear of not being liked. I see you. I won't leave you. So those are just some of the reasons of my big why. And so, yes, I'm not going to quit. It's so easy. Y'all, half of you on here probably like smoke crack to make $200,000 here. I didn't make 200 the last two. I redid my business, but I'm used to making around $175,000. And a lot of you would be like, fuck yeah, I'll take that money. You know what? At one point in my life as a teacher, $36,000 a year. When I made 120, I was like, oh my God, I did not know that was possible. And I just did that from then on. And now I am leaning in the edge of the desire that while that is more than enough, it's not enough. And it's not enough from a place of scarcity. It's not enough from a place of desire to be a catalyst in one little girl's life, in one family's life, in 333 clients' lives. To be a catalyst that Elaine, I see you, Janet, I see you, Steph, I see you, Cynthia, I see you, Tammy, I see you. Miriam did this challenge a few years ago, and she's out there doing lives every day on her own. I see you guys out there sharing your heart and showing your work. And the reason I ask you to do it, and the reason it's the way I market my business in a heart-centered way, is because it fucking works. It repels the people that aren't your people, and it attracts the people that are. And so I just wanted to share, you know, at my real estate company, we were taught to have a big why. I don't have a big why. Just like I don't have a book on my shelves. One of my friend's husbands, Jackie Bowman's husband, Ryan Bowman, they're reading Profit First. Great book. And he was like, what book are you reading? And I'm like, I'm reading 7 right now. And I read them. I do. I have some by my bed and some here and some I listen to. And he's like, I can only read one at a time. I'm coming. I am not a one at a time person. I am all the things. who did learn how to take her business to one thing for $1 million. So I love you. I got to go walk my dogs. That's a part of my everyday life. I love you. Thank you for listening to my why. And I look forward to watching and you guys sharing your whys. Source speed for that nurse. The final thing I'll say is I did have a very huge moment this year when I shared, my sister never asked for help, and her husband, they never asked for help with Blythe. They certainly never asked for money. In fact, my sister's doing all this work to help kids on the border, especially disabled kids, right? Their own family needs help and they're doing work. And I shared, Blythe needs a service dog. So one of her equipments had a update. She has some nighttime monitoring equipment, and the nighttime monitoring equipment had an app update, and the app update failed, and the monitor didn't go off, and it could have been a very deadly situation. And so they realized they need a service dog. Well, service dogs are not cheap. One already trained for you is 40, 50, 60,000. So they found a company here outside of Austin that helps you train a service dog. And so they are at the very beginning stages of a 3-year process of they have the dog picked out. They don't even know if she'll get through training. A lot of times you start training a dog. I'm coming. Give me 2 minutes. And Leroy's standing there with his teddy bear in his mouth. And so I shared that, and I don't often ask for help. And you guys blew me away because they raised $6,000 to get the project started. And more than half of that was my clients and my followers and my friends and my fans donating massive amounts of money. And so I was really touched by that. And I was like, oh, wow, I can actually really help make a difference in Blythe's life now. I don't have to be $1 million coach to do that. And so that's the other thing. I'm also learning how to ask for help. I give a lot and I'm learning how to ask for help. So those are my myriad of whys, and they're all really deep to my heart. And the last one, because he's not watching, he just went outside, is I want to blow my husband away. My husband and I have not always seen eye to eye on money, and he's terrified of me not having enough for retirement. And so I want to make him really proud with my retirement account. And that's just another little top of the icing, but I want to blow him away so that he feels safe. It's not my job to make him feel safe, but he's right. He's right. We're looking at a lot of people in our lives that are seniors that don't have the money to take care of themselves, and we don't want to be that way. So that's another one of my whys. I told you a few of my whys. All right. He's waiting for me out in the garage to go watch those damn dogs. Thanks for taking your time to listen. I love you. I appreciate you. I am your biggest fucking fan. Go get them.